And we're back. Friday. What is it? May 2nd. It's May.
Yeah. You obviously had a busy morning doing superhero things.
What
in your
happened?
all black outfit there. I mean, you
wearing-
thwarted criminals around the city
I'm
and
wearing
were
khaki
able to get in
pants.
and do the show at 6:30.
I knew I was going to get this.
You are an amazing individual.
Friday's casual. I'm wearing a hoodie, a black hoodie, and my black tastyfx hat. Do you want me to take the hat off? You don't?
No, the hat looks spectacular. I love the hat.
Okay.
The hat was a crowd pleaser.
I love
We have to figure
ahead.
out what the next iteration of
What?
stuff we're ordering.
What do we order? Stuff from where?
Swag stuff.
I'm not allowed. Oh, yes. On the company. Okay, great. Perfect. I'm not allowed to
And
order
again,
anything
not
else.
Amy Leon Dore stuff for you on
Trust
the company.
me, my addiction is in check. I'm not allowed to buy anything, and I actually have. This is one of the only things I bought. Do you have? You turned me on to Arc'teryx. You're enabling my shopping addiction in many ways.
Oh, of course.
Do you have this Arc'teryx hoodie?
I've got a similar one to it. Yeah.
You have to find this exact. They only do this one in black, and I've been trying to find it in other colors.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's like my favorite thing in the world.
I don't know what it is.
I don't understand it.
It's
I
well,
don't
part of it
get
is they're expensive, but they use really nice materials, so it's just comfortable.
I don't understand it, but like we were in Japan and we were about to go on the hiking thing, and I was like, oh man, it's kind of colder than I thought, and I don't want to be, the last thing I want to do is like be out for like 6 hours and be cold in the mountains here. So I go grab this hoodie, and yeah, it's a little expensive, although tax-free in Japan, and the dollar yen.
I love how you just
Dollar yen at that point is 150. So
I've got an Arc'teryx. They call it an AR coat. It's that lightweight
very nice.
climbing coat. That's rainproof. I've had it for 15 years, and one zipper broke. Mailed it in. They fixed it for free, and it looks 90% as good as the day I bought it.
It's unbelievable. At this point,
I have had 11 coats from Arc'teryx, so
Sure.
different kinds. I've got 3 left. My
What,
2
you're saying
boys have
that's a
stolen the other 8.
Oh, they've been stolen. They haven't broken.
Well, technically, they don't claim them as stolen. Once they wear them home because they don't have the right coat, and they spend a
Squatters'
day in
rights.
their apartment,
Yeah.
they are theirs.
Yeah.
So
They don't break. And growing up, I'm sure when you had, your kids were younger, North Face was the thing. Everybody
Yeah,
had
right.
to have like a North Face jacket, which are also nice. But after like 2 or 3 winters, it gets kind of wilted and like.
and North Face isn't what North Face used to be.
Yeah,
North Face has been bought 3-4 times.
I agree with you.
Arc'teryx actually was sold. I think it's a Canadian company, I want to say.
I think you're wrong. I think it's European or something. But they did. I think they went public this
Yeah.
year. But I think it's a group that has your other favorite brand, Solomon, as well, with the shoes.
Yes, I'm anti-lace.
I can't
will
go
not-
back to tying shoes.
I will not wear lace shoes. That's why
it's
the
the
on
worst.
the on clouds are gold.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah, this is my comfortable casual
You look
Friday
fantastic.
sweater.
I mean, you foiled crime early. You're in here doing the show. This is exciting. What do you got on for the weekend?
The weekend, I've got, you and I were just talking, the weather is supposed to be awful here, and I have another weekend of nothing between Japan and
Oh my
summer.
gosh, what is this?
Nothing.
You're going
Dude,
back to restart the Mission Impossible movies?
Maybe.
I tried again this
Maybe.
morning. I tried again this morning to get through that stupid.
You know what I did? You know what I did
phase
last
2
night?
one.
You know what I did last night?
I couldn't do it. It's just
Girlfriend out of town.
okay. Let's stop right there.
Defrost a little T-bone steak.
Oh, yeah?
That I got from Micah, her stepdad's
Oh, look
cows
at
down
you.
in Oklahoma. Defrost a little T-bone steak, some potatoes, some
Now,
little
when you
Dutch
defrosted it,
potatoes.
just naturally defrosted, or did you use a
I
microwave?
threw it in the fridge yesterday, and
Right.
then
Okay, right.
then when I got home, I put it out
There's no quick
out
way
on the
to defrost a
counter. I
steak
put some
without
salt
burning
on
it,
it, let it sit there for like an hour or so. Cooked the steak up,
Look at you.
sitting there, just me, the dog, steak, Dune 2. Put Dune 2 on the screen.
There you go. You're going full George Costanza.
It was great.
It's a spring of Frank. You're just
And now
running
she
around
comes
in your
back.
boxers, eating a steak.
Now she's
Look at
back
Puppy.
today.
You're lucky she does this. She's not an early riser.
I'm sleeping in the middle of the bed. It's amazing. I have to curl up on like the side of the bed when she's around. It sucks.
Well, at some point, you two, as your relationship evolves, you're going to have to get out of that twin bed you're sleeping in. Maybe go to bunk beds as a transition.
There was one place that we stayed, the nicest place that we stayed in Japan. Big like king size bed, but you go into the bed and it's actually I don't know if it'd be two full beds. It's bigger than two twin beds next to each other with their own set of sheets and everything.
So you got a firewall, which is ideal.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Really
it's
nice.
a firewall.
Yeah. Oh man, because I don't know. I don't want to get into it. This is a PG show, but she's always trying to come on my side.
Make it all hot.
It's
not good.
It's not good.
It's not good.
She is like a little heater. You know, in the old days, they used to put like that hot pan or whatever with coals in the base of the bed to heat the bed up.
Or the hot water bottle thing.
I don't know. Maybe I'm meant to be alone. What are you doing this weekend?
What am I doing? Not much. Same thing, kind of. I had all kinds of plans I wanted to do, but everything I wanted to do is kind of weather dependent, and it just is. I just looked this morning. It's 57, rain in the morning, rain in the afternoon. Sunday, 57, rain in the morning, rain in the afternoon. So I'll come up with something fun to do.
Maybe I'll go to because gardening in the city, in my box in the sky, like you like to say, is indoors. And so maybe I'll go get some dirt. I repotted some plants, but I need to do some more dirt
looking pretty
and everything.
So.
Everything's looking real green in Chicago. I was walking in today, and everything is a bloomin'. You don't have to go to Tokyo for the cherry blossoms. You get plenty of bloomin' here. It's pretty good. Anyways, let's get into some markets because we have a rapidly approaching non-farm payrolls. I want to focus on that to start, and then I want to get into a little bit of the Bank of Japan thing at the end. So maybe we'll hold yen until after that, although the price action obviously interesting to get above 145 and now backing off 100 points. But the moral of the story here, Pete, is U.S. dollar giveth on a Thursday and then taketh away here Friday morning ahead of non-farm payrolls. What are you looking at? I got a couple of interesting insights, I think, at least. What's the big headline for you?
You know, I think, again, euro and sterling were kind of sat on yesterday. They just kind of ground them lower. And in the matter of an hour this morning, they put everything back in, back up to the highs. I actually flipped a few short right here and just scalped them really small.
Okay.
But I think this is all a little bit of squaring. I mean, we've pulled back well, briefly below 113. I think this is, as much as I think non-farm payrolls is a useless number, I think the market is going to hang and have a reflexive move off of it. So I think we're seeing some settling around the event. So
kind of mid-range on the last 2 weeks going into the event.
Everybody taking a little off to not get too stuck if this number gets. I honestly think if you get a print of 110 or 200, if you get 200, the dollar will get bid and may stick there. Mm-hmm. If you get 110, it'll be sold and there'll be buyers out there.
So a couple of things. Obviously, this market is more prone to news right now than it is to economic events. Anything having to do with trade is really taking over the market versus, I mean, we had PCE this week, we had GDP this week, and all of those numbers kind of got tossed aside. There was some turbulence. You know what was a sneaky number, though, was that ADP employment was a huge miss.
Right.
And that really was what moved the market from what I saw on an economic event side of things more than anything this week. To your point, though, it did it for all of like 30 to 60 minutes, and then the overall trend of dollar buying kind of continued.
Yeah.
So I couldn't agree with you more. They're expecting 130. Previous was 228. We've had a few misses here this year. If you're looking back to Jan and Feb, some low numbers. And also if you're going back to October, some low numbers for non-farm payrolls. But we've also had this pendulum swing all the way up into the mid-200s.
And that's why this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is the tape action you get. That first 30, 90 seconds, and it will get to a point and either fade or will continue. Again, if it's 110, the economy's doing worse, so I should look at short deltas and equities, and probably buying bonds here.
I don't
the fact
think you
is,
can do it.
equities are up with Amazon and Apple being down for earnings. Equities are up. Bonds are back at the lower end, lower quartile of their range, just not quite below 112. So there's a little bit of dislocation there. I think this is again, there's nothing to be taken away from this number short of if you want to look at getting in, if you have an idea of trading any of these pairs, I mean, Kiwi's been incredibly Teflon.
Yeah.
In terms of they've tried it down. Now, they haven't been able to really get through 60 cents, but they haven't been able to get it under 59 either. So they've tried a couple of times really hard. It'll be interesting to see if this actually gives us the juice to go one way or another on this.
I couldn't agree with you more that this should set up to be a nice trade for maybe an hour or two. You and I love to say, even especially maybe on non-farm Fridays, that by the time 11 o'clock noon rolls around Central Time and Europe has exited, if you're thinking that you're going to flip some stuff back and forth between then and 4 p.m. Central Time, it's going to be a tough trade. But I think this will be a really interesting trade around non-farm.
The caveat to that is if we get to a new structural high, in other words, we print and stay at 60.20.
Sure.
And then that becomes an interesting afternoon. But if we get up there, we fade back and we're at 59.70 or 59.60, don't expect much out of the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And you play a little defense then.
One thing that I also think you nailed is if you're trying to make a big story about this employment number in terms of, oh, now I need to do this with my equities and this with my bond portfolio and this with my cryptos, and I got to, make some big story about the U.S. economy. Look back to Wednesday when GDP printed negative. They tried to, the media, the sensational media, financial media came out and did the whole oh, this is recession and we're doing the whole recession thing and it's a negative print and everything else. A lot of short-term turbulence that we've seen the last couple of months, whether what you think about the tariffs one way or another, has been shrugged off one way or another.
Right.
We've seen huge bids sold into, we've seen huge sell-offs bought. And so the last thing I would want to do is here on Friday afternoon overthink this non-farm and make a bunch of changes for the next foreseeable future. We've got an FOMC next week. A lot of stuff still to come out. How these tariffs actually land, I think, still to come out. So I think a great point by you. I think great short-term trade off of this number. Not necessarily something. If you're looking for oh, it printed double digits and now I've got to turn everything around. The U.S. economy is this, that, or the other. We already had a negative GDP print this week.
Right.
And the stock market is able to shrug off Amazon and Apple earnings and all these different things. I don't know where it's going. I'm not saying, oh, everything's going up. I just wouldn't necessarily make a mountain out of a molehill of one data point.
This number. And I thought about doing a show on this because they will revise last month's number of non-farm payrolls.
Sure.
And they will revise it for 4 months. And when you look at the 4 month ago number, how dramatically it's changed from revisions and the way the market reacted to it, it's this truly is a useless exercise. For us as traders, it'll give you movement. That's all we want.
Yeah. A couple other things that I thought were interesting. You brought up sterling earlier. Isn't it funny how the worm turns on these markets? It's one thing you got to really love about Forex markets in here in particular. We love to take a look at a long-term chart and say oh man, look at the mean reversion quality. Similar to if you bring up a VIX chart for the last 30 years and you're wow, man, VIX goes up to 60 or 70 or 80 and it goes down to single digits. But man, if it doesn't come back to 15 to 20. Right. Similar in here, of course, any of these markets, including VIX, can go in whatever direction any given day, and they can stay there for as long as they want. But you bring up a long-term chart and you say, wow, this euro-dollar market's been up to $1.50. It's been down to under parity for certain stretches. But man, does it love to come back to 120, 125, 115, whatever you want to say. And I look at this pound market, And I know this is more short term, but I'll be damned if this wasn't the outperformer for the last couple of weeks here after the big move to start April. And now it's the underperformer.
Yep.
Now it's the one that
doesn't hold on to the rallies as well, and is the first one to roll over when the dollar stops getting sold.
Exactly right. It's been very weak this week on the dollar bids, and now on the dollar sell-off. Out of these major U.S. dollar pairs here, it's the smallest net change out of everything, and so it's just always interesting.
And when we
to
take
me.
a look at euro sterling,
Sure.
we talked about this yesterday. That actually, that has had a tremendous run to the upside. But that actually, in terms of pullbacks,
huge pullback.
has euro given you a pullback? Sure, a little bit. We're still in the upper quartile of the 6-month range. This gave you a really large pullback. So when you were looking for, what is really giving me the biggest pullback? It wasn't any of the dollar pairs. It was this relationship. So sometimes these first level non-dollar crosses are really interesting pieces to trade if you're looking for, what has relinquished a lot of the energy and maybe will reestablish itself. So this was, and this basically just translates what you talked about. All of a sudden, the pound is underperforming the euro on up moves and accelerating it on down moves. That's what this chart reflects.
Very, very cool to see these dynamics shift so quickly. But I want to flip really quickly to this dollar yen. I want to talk about the Bank of Japan news that came out here, because we've seen this, I don't know how many times in the last, call it year, maybe like 12 to 16 months. Bank of Japan is hiking. Bank of Japan is hiking. Bank of Japan is hiking. And the Fed, they're going down. They're going down. And the dollar yen trade is it's going to unwind. And man, did we not get down to 140 going into this event. And we've hit 140 in recent weeks. Obviously, big dollar sell-off if I pull back to the daily chart here. Get down to 140 amid that dollar sell-off. And going into the event, we're trading 142, and it's like, okay, we're splitting the difference. We could be going down to some new lows here if Bank of Japan comes out and confirms this trend that everybody is waiting for them to confirm. Going back to last summer into fall, when we got down to 140, everybody looking for this new leg lower in dollar yen. And they say that the window for hikes is actually closing a little bit. And again, we have this move back to 145. Obviously, we're off of those highs. We got all the way up to, I'll go back to the 15-minute chart again, just to show you the action. Got all the way up above 145.50 and even close to 146 the day following this Bank of Japan news. Obviously, here is the news coming out on Wednesday night, continuation of that dollar bid. And then, like I say, getting all the way up to 146 again. I mean, what say you on this? Because every time we've gotten down to even 145 or 140 here in April 2025, I've been in this mode of like, Bank of Japan's got to show us at some point, or this trade has to really unwind and get down to 135 or get down to 130 to really prove you wrong, and it hasn't.
Right, and you know what? If you were leaning short 142.5 on the you had said, I think they're going to be a little bit more aggressive. The market had built, you and some other people had built in, that's why we were down at that level, leaning on the probability.
Sure.
When it isn't delivered, your trade idea now has fundamentally changed. You need to manage that, take that off, and then reevaluate.
For sure.
It's not like you really, if that was your thought at 142.5, 143, you shouldn't be in that trade. And granted, if you're not, it's better because you're not losing money. But the dynamic has changed, and you need to be in a very non-emotional way. Okay, this didn't unfold the way I wanted. I'm going to take whatever loss I've got, and I'm going to move on and then reevaluate at that point, because that has changed. I mean, I thought one of the most interesting statements that came out of that was they said they would never consider selling U.S. treasuries to punish the U.S. in a trade war. I'm thinking, who says that if that's not on the top of their mind? That is the most passive-aggressive thing I could ever think in my mind.
Sure.
Really? You're going to highlight the fact that you're not going to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a subtle jab at again, a huge vulnerability the U.S. has with all this debt floating out there. This gets to be a little tougher trade right through here. So we've talked about this. U.S. is flat to lower trajectory of rates. Bank of Japan was flat to higher trajectory. One of those dynamics has changed now. It's flat against flat down.
Yeah.
So some of that zeal of trading, and this is one where, unfortunately, you really got to wait for. You can try to get ahead of. I think they're going through 140, so I'm going to sell some 145, and I'm really going to be involved when they blow through that. That's a tough trade.
Yeah.
I think you're really going to have to wait for the confirmation, let the market do the damage a little bit. And yes, you're not going to get a jump start into that move, but right now you're looking at a little bit more sloppy range to trade.
Agreed. It's just interesting to me that, on one side of things, of course, it is very hard to stand in front of this freight train. And this is out of the major US dollar pairs, this is the biggest mover on the year from start of the year to this low down at 140. I think we were down more than 10% in this market on that move. And to stand in front of that with all of the news going, Bank of Japan is hiking and, Trump's trying to get the Fed down. The Fed is already looking at 2, 3, 4 cuts this year. The carry trade's unwinding. All that news is got to be hard to stand in front of that at 140. But it is just funny to me that it's like, man, how many times do we have to do this? We did the same thing, remember, to close out 2023. And the carry trade throughout this whole span of time has been paying you at least 3 to 4 full points of interest rate differential on an annual basis. And it's just not been able to break through this 140. Of course, to your point, if we get back down there here in May or sometime like that, and it breaks down to like 139, 138, then maybe you have your story here. But man, look at this price action here off of this the last couple of times, the last couple of years. It has been almost to a T, printing 140 or close to it, or breaking 140 for a day, bouncing back to 145, maybe some sloppy range in there. But if the next move is 147 or 148,
absolutely,
it might be more upside.
That's why I love non-farm payrolls. Not because they mean anything, but if you get 100, if you're stuck short right now and you anticipated the break, you were bullish Japanese rates, you're sitting on a less than attractive position. If you get some news that gets you a print of 143.5, that's a gift to cover your short. It's not confirmation that your idea is right. It's a gift to cover your shorts.
Sure.
Or you want to get long. If you get a print up to 145.5 from here, you get the 100 pips, 1 standard deviation daily range on this, and you think the market will roll over, take that. Right here, right now, there's not a good choice. So this is where that number serves a great purpose for you to get a little bit of elasticity to either manage positions or reestablish a bias.
And last thing here is those 100-point moves are very normalized in this market at this point. And so it's thankfully, if you're stuck one way or the other, or you're looking to get in a position one way or the other, and you're looking for 100 points or 125 points in this market, you could very well get it in a day. I mean, this is a market that yesterday was up more than 100 points, and that now today, already before non-farm, down close to 100 points. So interesting stuff from Bank of Japan. We'll see where it goes.
Always interesting stuff in FX, which is great to see. You can always find something that's moving, that's interesting, that really fits whether you're a contrarian, momentum trader, lots out there.
Very cool. So with that, we'll hand it off to our good friends Tom, Tony, and Bonetta. Stay tuned for that. We'll see you next week.
The market doesn't stop. So why should you? Diversify your portfolio with stocks, options, futures, crypto, and more from tastyfx. Focus on the markets that matter to you. See the odds before you trade using curve analysis.